Explain what ASMR is. It's abbreviation for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. I'm just Googling this actually, so I'm reading it from there. And it can be typically described as a tingling sensation that occurs at the back of the scalp and moves down the neck and the upper spine. And people who experience ASMR find it very relaxing, really. And the patient herself really enjoyed the procedure. She was got this sensation at the back of her scalp, back of the neck and upper spine. So we're in the left ear here, and she has been using some olive oil drops, and you can see, although the ear canal is fully occluding, the wax was coming out in nice big chunks. For me, actually, it was quite satisfying doing this ear, performing the procedure, because, as I said, although the patient attended almost completely deaf, was so easy to remove. And that was partly because the patient had been using olive oil drops. Olive oil drops tends to lubricate the ear canal wall, so as you're extracting the wax, it helps with the movement of the wax coming forwards. There's less friction. It can also soften the wax and give myself and the ear practitioner a better suction grip. If the wax is too hard, sometimes you don't get that grip, and if it's too soft and mushy, it clogs the suction tube. And I believe this is the last big piece of wax that we're extracting just now. You can see the latter tail end of the wax is quite dark, so that's been in there for a while, so it's oxidized. The symptoms are all alleviated at this stage. There's a bit of soft wet wax. Clinically, this wax is not going to cause the patient any issues, but there's a bit of wax just at the posterior and anterior edges of the eardrum, so I've just gone in with a fine end suction gauge just to remove that. Quite often in the videos people leave comments highlighting that there's a bit of wax left over, but a bit of wax is good. I explained the reasons for that in my previous video, and I suspect a lot of the people watching the videos themselves have actually got some wax in their ears, but unknowingly. So wax it's only an issue if it occludes the ear canal and the sound can't kind of conduct itself through the ear canal to make contact with the eardrum. So our role as clinical ear care specialists is not to clean the ear completely dry, full of wax. It's just to remove the blockage and really alleviate the patient from their symptoms. Quite often people who suffer from wax are going to secrete wax again in the future, so it's a pointless exercise trying to get every little last speck out, and by attempting to do that you can cause trauma and injury to the ear canal, and would get questioned if ever the client ever made a litigation claim against us as to why we decided to remove every little speck of wax, because as I say, clinically it's not needed. We've now gone to the right ear, so the patient hadn't been using drops in this ear, and the reason for that is when you sometimes do use earwax drops, the wax absorbs the drops and it expands and swells and it creates more of a blockage. Therefore, the patient was very worried that if she put drops in both ears, it would also cause kind of increased deafness in her right ear as well. The patient is currently working from home during lockdown, as many people are, and she's having to be on the phone constantly in Zoom meetings, so her hearing is very important to her, as it is for everyone really. So just using a suction probe, you see a bit of keratin there attached to the wax, just removing that, peeling that from the roof of the ear canal. And the wax in this ear is actually a bit more impacted, although they felt the left ear was the one that was causing more of the symptoms. You can see just how occluding that is and how dark it is. So if you've been watching my videos, you know the darker the colour of earwax, the longer it's been in the ear, it's oxidized. So just trying to loosen this plug of wax, getting a good suction grip, and I'm just wriggling it, going backwards and forwards, round in circles. And got another layer there. So this piece of wax is probably about 1 centimetre in the ear canal, so we're on the cartilage portion, and there is some skin attached to the base and to the rear, so you can see that skin just coating and lining the wax. So we're just wriggling that loose and free, and that should detach itself hopefully. But in this ear, after I moved the lateral wax, so the lateral means the wax near the entrance, the wax further in, so the more medial wax is a lot more compressed. So I had to put some olive oil drops on a couple of occasions just to loosen it, lubricate it. in order for me to remove. Again, I'm just targeting the rear, so the posterior canal wall there, just trying to loosen some of that dead keratin, and now at the base, and I'm just wriggling it, making little circular motions. Sometimes you'll see that I come out of the ear and there's no wax attached to the suction probe. It's just because the suction probe's got blocked. Sod's law is as soon as I come out with the suction probe, it unblocks itself, so I have to go back in. You can just see how dark that is. I would say that's more black than brown, so it's really been in there for a long time. So some of the advice I've provided to the patient after the procedure is to use olive oil earwax drops on a regular basis, once a month, and obviously to get her ears clean more regularly, because it's as bad as it gets, this is really. Just going to the roof of the ear canal there, there's some keratin, just trying to loosen that bit, and this is where I've put some olive oil drops just to lubricate it. I tend to use olive oil in the same way you would use some soap. If you've got a ring stuck in your finger, it just provides that lubrication, and because the wax was a bit stickier on this side, the olive oil helped improve the suction grip. So again, I'm just trying to loosen it all the way around the edge of the ear canal. You can see that skin attached there at the base of the wax and of the ear canal. And typically, if you're able to detach the skin, the wax then comes with it. And I've just got the tail end of this lump of wax. I'm just trying to bring it through. Sometimes the videos are a bit dark, and that's purely because the wax is dark, so the reflection back. So when we use an endoscope, it's fibre optics, so we're just reflecting back what light we reflect in. So if the wax is dark, you will get a dark appearance within the ear canal. The patient is also of an Asian descent, so the ear canal, the flesh, the skin is also of a darker colour. So I removed that large plug, but you can see there's another plug really deep medial, like right up against the eardrum. You can see the complexion of this wax is now a pale brown, and the reason for this is actually the patient previously had been using Otex. So Otex is a hydrogen peroxide type of drops, and it somewhat bleaches the wax. It turns it into a pale colour. The problem with Otex, I find, so not just Otex, any hydrogen peroxide type of drops, that it turns the wax almost into a mashed potato consistency, so it's very hard to vacuum. And this wax is lodged in the isthmus, so the isthmus is beyond the second bend of the ear canal, it's where the ear canal narrows, and this is the bony part as well. So the bony part of the ear canal is very sensitive. The layer of skin that lines the bony part of the ear canal is 0.1 millimeters in thickness, whereas the skin that coats the cartilage portion of the ear canal, so the outer third, is a lot thicker, sometimes up to 5 to 10 times thicker. So we just have to be careful that we don't make contact with the bony part of the ear canal when we're doing procedures near the eardrum. So I've just put some more olive oil here, and I'm just swirling the ear. So I've got my hand on her pinner, so the outer part of the ear, and I'm just rotating that. I just want to ensure this oil gets in behind the plug of wax, so it lubricates it all the way around. So I've just gone back in there with the standard Zollner suction probe. A fine end wouldn't be strong enough for this. Suction probe just got blocked, so I just came out. Yeah, fine end wouldn't be powerful enough for this, and because the wax is still a bit sticky, the fine end, the tip, the diameter is a lot narrower, so it's much easier to get blocked. So for this, I had no real option but to use suction probe. Couldn't use a hook, couldn't use forceps, couldn't use a Jobson horn, because you had to get in and behind the wax, and it would just been very uncomfortable. But there we are. Remove that big plug of wax. You can see the skin, the glossiness around the wax. Eardrum's visible. Bit of soft wax at the entrance. There's a bit of dead keratin here now, so when we're in the cartilage portion, we sometimes can peel the skin off, but the skin was quite thick and it just wasn't ready to be removed. There's no clinical need for me to remove that. But sometimes, however, when you do get a suction grip or skin, it just peels away quite nicely, and sometimes inadvertently, when you're removing wax, the skin does peel, and you feel that you should remove it because it can flap around in the ear sometimes, and that can cause a bit of irritation. But there was no clinical need, just a bit there, adjacent to the eardrum. You can see how thick this skin is. It's really thick. So just giving it one last go with the fine end. I thought if it peeled easily, I'll carry on, but it was just too thick. It's not ready to be shedded, so we're going to leave that. And again, I have to stress to people, when we do perform earwax removal. Most of people watching this will have a bit of dry skin like this, that's slightly shedded. It's absolutely normal. However, I am aware some people do obviously watch the videos to make sure everything's nice and clean, but clinically there's no need. There's the eardrum, good light reflex there. There's all the contents. I've got 3 still images. I don't know whether anyone watching the video experienced ASMR. If you did, leave a comment, let us know. I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Have a great weekend, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.